If we were in a room and it wasn't weighted heavily or totally by people who are selling expertise, most of all marketing online, we would have a very diverse spectrum of different businesses: wholesale, resale, large, small, high tech, low tech, no tech, personal services, professional services, all kinds of people in the room. And if I would ask of that room how many people get 20 to 100% of their businesses from referral or word of mouth, you would be shocked that probably half the room would raise their hand. If I had them stand, ask them to tell me the percentage in the dollars, you would be even more fascinated because it's huge. 40%, $3 million, 80%, $5 million. Small one might be 60%, $400,000. So then I ask people to remain standing if they have in place at least one formalized, systematized, continuously adhered to referral generating strategy. And most of them sit down. Then I'll say two, and 95% of the ones standing sit down, and I say three, and they all sit down because they don't really have very much more than that. Most don't have even one, even though that's a big driver of their business. And if you think about it, and it does apply to you guys if you adapt it, a referral generated buyer buys faster, negotiates less, buys more often, is more enjoyable to deal with, doesn't cost you anything, and refers more people, particularly in the non-online world. And yet most people spend all their time in outside advertising, and if you want to be a very critical thinker, outside advertising is starting to generate the most outer periphery of trust building that you have to constantly evolve. Most people, and God bless you for the low entry level, but if you're trying to sell anything more sophisticated, you got to win their trust either on performance, on contribution, on education. It's a long, arduous process, wherein if you can get a portion of your buyers to refer other people, that's instant credibility, instant trust, instant ability to access. When I go to Tony Robbins and I do his platinum partners and I do his lions, and he and I do a day together of problem solving, I've earned it, but I have instant credibility for Tony and they. And so when we want clients, we can source six-figure clients like that from his audience because I've gained the implicit trust through that associative sort of reference. So you ought to think about it. X factors we created 34 moves and maneuvers that stands for exponential, that even if you misexecute, they're going to give you a geometric outcome. And find his power partnering. Long before affiliates were ever around, I was doing billions of dollars for clients of strategic alliances, joint ventures, power partnering, where it wasn't just a static one-time promotion, but we would become permanently engaged with that business or that organization or that media, and we were constantly promoting a continuum of our products and services, and we also secured the right to be the provider of other people, so we would turn that relationship into a profit center and a distribution channel that we controlled. So I've done some pretty sophisticated stuff, and I'm telling you all this just so you'll appreciate. Modeling for Millions is there is the historic swipe file, and you all know what that is, I presume. But there's much more you can do. Modeling for Millions means looking at all the different business models, the selling strategies, the access vehicles. You got all these, by the way, in your workbook, I think, don't you? So you don't have to write. You write down all the implications, but you don't have to write any of those down because I think they gave you. Did they give you a workbook with it?
No.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, they don't have it in a workbook, or they do? Nope. Oh, I'm sorry. I got it in my workbook, but I'll make sure they give it to you. I'm sorry. I don't know that. I assume assumption is very dangerous, isn't it? Sorry. Never mind. Okay. But did you guys ever watch the old Saturday Night Live with Rosanna Dana? Whenever she'd go and do if you didn't, she was a character on some of the early ones where she would do an opinion on TV and she'd be totally off the mark. And when they would tell her that, she'd go, never mind. So never mind. Let me continue. But better than best practices. Yeah, I mean, best practices has got a fallacy if you ever model it or ever adhere to it, because most best practices are giving you the best practices within a band of your and related industries. So you're only seeing the best things those people do. You're not really seeing the best alternative realities. That's why I think when you model from outside and you see what everyone else does, it's incredible. I was thinking back, and I'm not trying to date myself, but I have a historic background that goes back and forward, and I still do very sophisticated companies, so I have a lot of context. We, years ago, did something that I don't think I ever told. We might have seen it, Taylor, in the ad book. Years ago, the newsletter business got so incestuous that everybody and their brother was selling a $200 or a $500 newsletter, claiming they called the top and the bottom of gold and bonds and gold stocks and all this crap. And it got so tiring that I went and I collected the very best performing newsletters out there. And we started to do what was called marketing tests. And we would sell $200 and $500 newsletters for $15 to $29 a piece. And we had this great rationale. We sold millions of them. And the rationale was everybody else is asking for your money and telling you they'd give you back that money anytime up to a year if their advice didn't perform. But our position was, well, yeah, we'll give you back. They'll give you back $200 or $500 after you lost $100,000. We said we don't want you to spend money. We want you to paper trade for as long as you need to see the validity of the various newsletters that I promoted. That's why we're only going to charge you a little more than the hard cost, because we're going to play a long game and have you renew at full rate after or after a few months, because you're going to see how valuable we are. And that was very powerful. But what was sort of cool, because you were talking about your 20% upgrade, we were charged $15 to $29. This is tangential. It's an ADD moment, but it's fun. And we would tell them, are there any stipulations? And the stipulations were, A, if you're an existing subscriber, you can't take advantage. It's only for new subscribers. You already know it. You're already profiting, or you wouldn't be a subscriber. Number two, you don't get all the bonuses that a $200 or $500 subscriber would get. Number three, you had to pay by check, not credit card, which was hilarious. We got all these checks. And I used to have rooms full of people manually doing it before I go back a long time. But then at the end, we said, and oh, by the way, if you're somebody who won't take advantage of the bargain of a lifetime, even if it's 85 or 90% off, unless you get the bonuses, you can buy all the bonuses for $10 more, and it cost us $2. And we were making it on the $8 all day long because we were doing millions and millions of transactions. So it's funny how one little change can change the whole profit structure. Just a little tangent. Fun?
Right.
No, it's just a truism. I look all the time at hidden assets, overlooked opportunities, underperforming activities. And when we work with a client, the first thing we do is we break the business into two goals. One is maximizing what you're already doing, because most people don't. I mean, even with all the technology, if you don't understand all the leverage points in the sales or the revenue system you've created, you can't maximize every one. And within every element, there are literally, without giving you a headache, there are sub-stratas. I mean, within targeting an audience, you can target many different ways, between what you offer and the way you bring them in, and the conversion and the reaffirmation afterwards, and the upgrading. There's many ways you can do it. If you only know a few ways, that's what you're going to choose. But there are lots of optionality, and that's why I encourage all of you to study all kinds of things outside of whatever your domains are, because that's where your big breakthroughs and advantages will come that'll shoot you up many notches.